And welcome everybody to another episode of what are we calling this? 5 Reasons Sports Live. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this is a fantastic day because the NFL draft has finally arrived. We've got the Carolina Panthers on the clock right now, and even though the Miami Dolphins don't actually have a first-round pick this year, thank you Stephen Ross, thank you Bruce Beal for that. But nevertheless, you never know what Chris Grier might have in his back pocket, so that's why we are here. We are watching to see who falls, who gets picked early, what surprises will shake up this draft. I've got with me Alfredo Arteaga, He's kind of in a permanent spin. I don't know if that means that he's there, but we just can't hear him, or if he's still loading. And I've got a good friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine who I have not done a show with in a very long time. So I'm actually very excited about this. Chris Early, otherwise known as Duke to his friends. I'm glad to call myself one. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well.
All right, man. Like it's been years, Duke, years since you and I have done anything like this. And so I'm really excited that we get to go back in your old wheelhouse. I know you don't do as much draft work as you used to, but I still remember that you helped me, at least in the early years, just kind of pop on and teach me some things about prospects and things like that. So it was really a lot of fun to have you. And now we can officially welcome Alfredo Arteaga. I don't know what happened to his other camera. I guess it's still having a heart attack.
Yeah, it's been awful. I just got off the radio right now. Like my voice is kind of shot. I've been talking nonstop since like 8 o'clock in the morning.
You're a very coveted individual.
So it looks like it's looking like I had talked about it on the podcast, and I had talked with Donna on the radio just now that I always felt, Houston always wanted Bryce Young, and since it was a foregone conclusion he was going to go number one, that they weren't just going to pivot that easily to a defensive player, and that they would take a quarterback. My theory was that they were going to go after Will Levis, but it seems like C.J. Stroud is getting some steam, and the betting line seemed to indicate that he might be the second overall pick. And in my opinion, that's the best quarterback in this draft. So,
well, it's starting to wonder why.
Getting a little clarity.
I'm starting to wonder, though, like if it was such a foregone conclusion, why are they stalling out the clock, I suppose? Because we've heard rumors about the whole Will Levis thing, about the idea that he'd been telling people that, oh, yeah, the Panthers told me that they're going to pick me first, something along those lines. Duke, are you buying any of those rumors, do you think it's going to be Bryce Young?
I think it's going to be Young. Living here in North Carolina, I see a lot of Panthers stuff, and a lot of my friends that are Panthers fans are kind of they're kind of feeling that it's going to be Bryce Young. So,
do they prefer someone else over there?
I think a lot of them. I think a lot of them prefer Stroud, but it's kind of mixed. I think a lot of people like Richardson, or some like Richardson. I don't think Will Levis has as much. I've not heard his name as much, but I think a lot of the fans are kind of between Young and Stroud. I think the biggest issue that I've read on Facebook or heard from people is mainly just the fact he's short. That's about it.
I mean, I feel like we've gotten past the point where size should really be considered that much of a factor with quarterbacks, though, because we've seen a lot of small-ish quarterbacks go on to have really good playmaking ability. Obviously, Russell Wilson wasn't the tallest guy in the world. Obviously, Kyler Murray's not the tallest guy in the world. They make jokes about him all the time. And our very own Tua Tagovailoa is not considered a man among men, if that makes any sense. He's not like a 6'6" monster on the football field, and he's pretty good. I'd like to say he's pretty good.
And I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks are not necessarily gigantic. I think Aaron Rodgers is 6'2".
Is that it? Really?
I want to say I thought I may be wrong. It's been a while since I've even looked at it.
Yeah, no, Aaron Rodgers is 6'2". He's 6'2", 210 pounds.
So I mean, aside from his frame, I mean, and I heard somebody say this. I don't know who it was, but I heard somebody say this the other day. It's like, I think it was somebody on one of the ESPN channels. I mean, Bryce Young has played at this height for a long time. I mean, he's good. He's played at Alabama for a couple of years. He's, I mean, it's not suddenly going to be like, oh, well, he did well in college and now he's going to suck in the NFL. At least not in my opinion, from playing in the conference that he played in. I mean, he's played NFL talent pretty much week after week. So,
yeah, I mean, that's how it goes in Alabama, right? Like you're already automatically with the best of the best. Why are they stalling out? Like, if this was maybe it's not as foregone a conclusion as we thought it was. Do you think there's any deliberations happening?
Wasn't there something that they said in 2021 that the reason that they were told by the league, the Jacksonville Jaguars were told by the league to stay on the clock for a certain period of time, even though everyone in the galaxy knew they were taking Trevor Lawrence? In fact, I think when they actually called Trevor Lawrence, he was away from the phone in another room or something.
So this is all just part of the spectacle. It's like
I mean, it's not like
it's in. Hallelujah, thank you.
It's not like it was, when Jake Long was drafted. I knew about that like several days or so in advance before the Dolphins made the pick. Did they have him under contract before they even picked him?
Yeah, they did.
So now it's a matter of the league says you have to stay on the clock for a certain amount of time. I think it's a dog and pony show part of it.
You have to give Mike Greenberg a chance to talk everybody's ear off and let Booger McFarland say something painfully obvious.
So you're watching the ESPN.
Yes, my new apartment does not have NFL Network, unfortunately, but I do have ESPN, so I'm going to go ahead and use that.
No, I'm on NFL Network. The only reason to listen to ESPN is Kuiper and McShay.
He's yelling too. I can tell from the way his mouth is moving. He's screaming at the top of his lungs.
I'm partial to Daniel Jeremiah. So
yeah, I like Daniel Jeremiah too.
I was on the field at the same time as Daniel Jeremiah in college. He led the Appalachian State Mountaineers to a big win over number 1 seed Georgia Southern, and the fans stormed the field, and I was one of those.
So for a second there, I thought you were saying, "Wait, did you play with or against Daniel Jeremiah?"
No,
that would have been interesting.
No, just that's my little fun blurb. I was on the field at the same time.
The pick is in. All right. So now what I really want to know is, who do you figure is going to be the first surprise of this first round? Like, which team is going to shock the world with their pick? Kind of no way I saw that coming kind of pick.
I think when the Jets get on the clock, well, let's wait for this pick to get in here.
With the first pick of the 2023 NFL Draft, Bryce Young. There it is.
As expected. I think like the first surprise is going to be the Jets when they get on the clock. I think that they're the first team in the first round that's going to reach for an offensive tackle because they need one. And if you look at the board, it's quite possible that there could be a run on offensive tackles, and they could take somebody like Anton Harrison, who's a guy who's supposed to be picked in the 20s, or at least that's where he's ranked. And they might reach for him. I believe they're at 15 because they swapped with the Packers. So that's the only one that I think could be a big surprise.
So the idea of Matthew Bergeron somehow getting picked in the first round starts to pick up steam.
I honestly think the biggest surprise will be if we see the Dolphins on the clock.
Well, yeah, but I figured that goes without saying, though. Although
I don't think there's going to be a Cole Strange moment this draft.
I personally have said during my other show, Fins Nation, and I'm sure that I'm in the severe minority with this, but if this is the year that you're going for it, like even if you have to use all your remaining draft picks in this draft and then send a player or two with them, just go ahead and get back in the first round and get your last piece of the puzzle. That's the way I'm looking at it. Just get your top draft pick and say, this is the team that we're going to go into the regular season with, because we're going for the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, the only thing that I would disagree with that is the reason I would disagree with that is because, they're at the point where the roster is almost completely built, and now is when you start to see the attrition of what the NFL salary cap can do to your roster. So it's part of, actually doing a good job as a general manager is that you've built such a good roster that you have to start paying all these people, right? And look at what they have to pay pretty soon. There's going to be some costs there. And I think it starts next season with probably Zach Sealer. And I think you're going to need high draft picks to be able to supplement some of those guys going forward.
Right, but I'm not saying like use up next year's ammunition. I'm saying, look, take your second, your third, your sixth, and your seventh, and a player they named later, and say, let's get back, even if it's in the back end of the first round, and say, this is the guy we're going with. We already have a full roster. Run for the Super Bowl. Try rebuilding next year.
Yeah, the other argument is also that this draft, at least this is what a lot of scouts are saying, is not necessarily top heavy. It's like kind of bulging in the middle. So a lot of people feel as if there's like 20 first round talents in this draft, and you don't necessarily want to be drafting 25th or 26th. And that's something that was kind of reasoned while they traded the Bradley Beal pick, which ended up becoming what I believe is 29.
You mean Bradley Chubb? Have you been doing a lot of Heat stuff lately?
Yeah, I have Bradley.
You said Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I got the Heat on my mind. Yeah, Bradley Chubb. So yeah, it stands to reason that they made the calculation very early on, and that's why they traded that first round pick for Bradley Chubb, that they didn't want to be picking in the late 20s because they didn't like the draft there. But the draft then becomes a little bit more intriguing, like from 30 to 100. And maybe that's the sweet spot where you want to have a bunch of picks. So I think maybe a trade down if the board gets a little bit favorable to them. And if you're a Dolphin fan and you're watching at home, what you're rooting for is for wide receivers and cornerbacks to be going early in the second round, because that means that's going to push all the tight ends and all the tackles and all the interior offensive linemen and the interior defensive linemen right to you into your sweet spot at 51 and possibly even 84.
So what are the chances that, because when I did my show last night, I had done a survey basically saying who do Dolphins fans want to draft at 51. Obviously, there were a couple of jokes in there like, oh, I want Will Anderson Jr. No, that's not going to happen. Somebody just said, just draft a superstar. I don't care what it takes. There are no superstars right now. And they're certainly not at 51. Although the guy that Pete kept coming up over and over and over again is somebody that you could perceivably see becoming a superstar in 2 or 3 years. And that's Darnell Washington. Now, I was on record saying I don't think that there was any realistic chance that would even happen ever, because there was no mock draft simulator anywhere except for one that I immediately disqualified because it let Darnell Washington fall to 51. But as I've started to kind of get a feel for how everything is going, I'm wondering if there is a distinct possibility that some team is just going to let Washington fall simply because they don't really need a tight end.
It's a distinct possibility. I think that there's absolutely 2 tight ends that will go in the first round. That's Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer. And past those 2, I don't see the first round talent. So I think Darnell Washington is the guy that's probably going to go in the top of the second round. And if he doesn't, or maybe somebody reaches for a Luke Musgrave, maybe, you could have a situation where you have all 3 of your preferred tight ends on the board at 51 in Darnell Washington, Tucker Kraft, and Sam Laporta. And then you really have a dilemma.
And I want to go back to a point that Alf made a minute ago when they did the press conference with Chris Grier, and he said that teams in the back half of the first round had called him about trading down. I took that as meaning one of 2 things. Number one, he is well, hang on a minute.
C.J. Stroud to the Texans.
Yeah,
that's not.
He looks upset somehow.
But
or is that just his natural face? Okay, well, okay. No, those are tears. I was like, why does he look so angry?
Yeah.
Okay, he's just emotional. Okay, that's fine.
So when Chris Grier made that statement in the press conference, I thought, well, teams know he's aggressive and think maybe he'll come up and want to take a pick in the back half of the first round. But it also said teams in the back half of the first round are willing to drop all the way to 51, which tells me that they see the talent at the back half of the first round as not a whole lot better or significantly better than the talent they could get at 51. Otherwise, either that or they just want a bunch of future picks. So, I mean, unless there's just, in my opinion, there's two players, and this is with the caveat that I don't watch a great deal of film at all. But if somehow Bijan Robinson or Paris Johnson Jr. make it to like 22, I would trade up for one of those players.
I mean, Paris Johnson Jr. would take care of the right tackle position instantly, I would imagine.
And eventually become the left tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I completely agree. I completely agree. Bijan Robinson is one of those guys that, you know how they say, a guy, a handful of guys, once in a lifetime. Well, it's not once in a lifetime, but it's like 8 or 9 times in a lifetime. Bijan Robinson is that type of running back. He's in that class with the Adrian Peterson, Saquon Barkley, Ricky Williams. I absolutely would trade up into the 20s for somebody like that. Absolutely.
Now, I think the chances of him making it to 20 are
slim and none.
Are about the same as me starting for the Dolphins next season at quarterback. So,
I mean, listen, man, with the way people talk about Tua, maybe you have a shot.
You don't want me throwing a football, not at my age and the way my shoulder feels. If you think Tua's arm looks weak, there was that thing on Twitter a while back where they said somebody posted a thing that they were arguing like, I think that any regular Joe off the street could go in an NFL game and at least get 10 yards. And there was a debate about it. And some of the pros were saying, no, you can't. And some people, I'm like, if I could throw the ball 10 yards, I would feel good about it. Just throw it without, anything else. So, yeah, you don't want that happening.
Yeah, like you could throw it to the other team. Like any Joe off the street can do that.
Like I could do those little shovel passes, like the one where Albert Wilson scored the touchdown against the Raiders. I could do that. I want to go with as far as who I think the Dolphins could pick. We were talking about various positions, and I think it was the 3 yards per carry guys brought this up because they were talking about Jonathan Mingo.
You mean that guy right there?
Yeah, they were talking about Jonathan Mingo, and
that's my guy.
Yeah, I do not and would not be. I do not think it would be a shock if the Dolphins drafted a receiver, and I would not be surprised, and actually I'd be excited about it because
is he the Debo now?
They have they're top heavy. They got Hill and Waddle, and they're going to get all the targets. But after that, I mean, you're expecting Braxton Berrios to step up, Ezukama to step up. I don't even think Cedric Wilson will be on the team past this weekend. So
you smell a trade. I mean, I think everybody smells a trade at this point. Like there's something brewing in the air.
And the guy that I was thinking of just from reading like bios was like Marvin Mims, because I thought you got
very nice player for Oklahoma.
It's like get 3 guys of the same type, and you got all this speed, So I could see how Mike McDaniel could probably talk himself into that pick, or a pick like that.
I mean, I feel like at this point, the Miami Dolphins have built up enough. I mean, I feel like they built up enough stock in the wide receiver room at this point. I understand the Jonathan Mingo appeal. He has a lot of potential as a do-everything wide receiver and do a lot of gimmicky stuff. But with that being said, they already have, like you said, Braxton Berrios. And I'm not looking at Berrios like a project or just a guy. He's a good player, so I don't mind him at all. And as for Eric Ezunkama, I mean, isn't that the whole point? They literally said we did not draft Channing Tindall and Eric Ezunkama to be 2022 players. We drafted them to be 2023 and beyond. We would start to look at Eric Ezunkama to make an impact literally this year. Like this is the year to give him the shot to make that impact. So I feel like they would already be dismissing Ezunkama as it is if they went ahead and went for Jonathan Mingo, because you're basically saying, okay, all these other guys who we have on the roster, we literally signed Chosen Anderson to give him a shot. We're just basically saying, nah, we're not even interested at that point. So why even bring him on to begin with?
I mean, talent is talent. And if the board falls in such a way that that's the best guy and you don't want to reach for a lower player on your board, at that point, I'm taking the best player available.
I agree. And Jonathan Mingo affords them to do so many different things, especially in 11 personnel. Like, they'd be impossible to defend. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Arizona is at 57 seconds, and
Nope,
And
there it is, the trade. We'd heard
Houston's
about
back on the
this.
clock.
We'd heard about this. Is Houston who traded back up?
If they trade DeAndre Hopkins back to
Wow.
Houston,
The Texans are going twice in a row. How did they get all the way back up there?
they've got a ton of valuable draft capital.
Nah, you don't suppose Hopkins is going back.
No, this is probably pick 12, 33 or 32, and next year's second maybe.
Do you think this is the big shakeup that does it for this draft? Like, just throws the whole thing off in our projections? Like, they just picked up C.J. Stroud. Do you think they give him Bijan Robinson now?
I think this is for Anderson.
Yeah,
Will Anderson?
This is going to be Will Anderson, like almost certainly.
I mean, I think I'd read that the Cardinals were in on him and they could probably take him, but they also Kyler Murray was lobbying for them to take a tackle, so they put themselves in a good spot to draft a tackle because I don't think that an offensive tackle was graded high enough to go third overall, maybe. So
that's pretty wild. Like, I mean, I wonder what the Texans actually gave up to do that.
12, 32, or 30,
Because
33, and a future pick has to be. Yep, first and third next year.
Oh, so 2 firsts.
Man, for a team that's picking at the top of the draft, Cesario likes to throw those first rounders away, or Bill O'Brien or whoever.
Is O'Brien's in Alabama.
No, but I'm just saying those guys in Texas in Houston like to throw those picks. I see some Dolphins jerseys in there.
Yeah, the Dolphins NYC guys are over there.
Did you see the
Duke? You muted yourself. There you go. Okay, There it is. Will Anderson Jr. Roll Tide.
So, did you guys watch the pre-show where they had they honored the three guys from Virginia?
Yeah,
and one of them was drafted to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Was the kid's favorite team?
I think they did that, yeah. So that was pretty cool.
I was having dinner with the soon-to-be wifey, so.
Yeah, priorities.
So that means that Indy's coming up next. Don't they need a quarterback too?
Yes, and I think that's where Will
Levis is going.
Yes, which in my mock, I would have every single pick so far correct. The only thing I would have them flipped because I have Will Levis going number 2 and C.J. Stroud going number 4. So there's going to be an interesting pick here at number 4, and number 5 is the one that's going to be really, really interesting.
Well,
Seattle can do a million things with that pick.
Well, the funny thing is, if anybody who watched the Extra Yard not too long ago with Dono and Troy Stratford, Stratford had called Mark Higgs, and I think he's a Kentucky fan, and he's got a lot of Kentucky people that he follows along with, and supposedly, like, all the people in Indy are not necessarily that thrilled about the whole Will Levis idea. Like, they're really wanting somebody like an Anthony Richardson along those lines. I guess maybe let's put it this way. Would you call Anthony Richardson more potentially electric than Will Levis? Like he has more individual playmaking. But he has more individual playmaking potential.
Oh, obviously, when you're 6'4" or 250 pounds and you run a 4.4.
Does he run a lot?
And yes, and he jumps 40 inches. Like, he's a physical freak. But he's not a thrower of the football like Will Levis is.
So there you go. So you're looking at the Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson argument.
Not necessarily because Josh Allen can run. It's more of
he can, but that's the big armed thing. The big armed thrower, as opposed to the guy who can run for 100 yards any given moment.
Yeah, I guess it's more like a Justin Fields type.
Okay, Justin Fields. That's a better one.
Justin Fields versus, um, like who's come out recently that fits that. Justin Fields versus more of a Justin Herbert. Like there you go, Justin Herbert versus Justin Fields. Like it's that type of conversation. Not that neither one of these guys are going to be like those guys.
I mean, well, to be fair, we didn't think Justin Herbert was going to be like Justin Herbert, at least not at first.
No.
It's kind of it's weird how reality kind of punches us in the face with all of our projections. Like we look at this guy and we see Ryan Tannehill, and then he turns out to be very much not Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. Now this is going to be the first time. Like here, I pick 4 is the first time there should be a little bit of intrigue in this. This should be the first time.
Well, who did you have? Indy? You had Indy taking Will Levis. So are you thinking that there might be a jump for Anthony Richardson?
Somebody might get nervous, and try to move up there.
No, pick is in.
Pick is in. So, it should be Will Levis if it sticks to my board the way I drew it up. But, stranger things have happened.
We don't need a Subway player interview. Can we get to the pick, please? I have to go to work tomorrow.
12th overall, 33rd, 2024 first and third.
So they gave up 2 first-round draft picks.
And they got a 4th round back.
I mean, they better be worth it, I guess. That's all I can say.
What a draft board. Wow.
Yeah.
I wish I could see what y'all were seeing. I have to watch ESPN.
I would love to sit in on one of those just once, just to see how it goes.
A lot of phones ringing.
Well, now that what they have is these little 2-way pagers, so they could talk to scouts. Because usually, it used to be you would have 1 million people in like the draft room, but now teams are going a little bit more streamlined since the pandemic, and they're just having like a few guys there. They're usually having like the head of college scouting. They're going to have the general manager, the head coach. Sometimes the owner sits in. But it used to be that you used to have everybody. But now they just have like these little 2-way pagers with their scouts. And the scouts are all in another room and they're cutting up film to prepare for them so they can do their mock.
It looks terrible. Like, I love how everybody all looks all nervous even after the pick is already in. Like, there's nothing to be shocked about. You've already made your decision.
Well, Indianapolis is they've danced around the quarterback position since Luck left, and they've gone after veterans. And
yeah, they had the luxury of having Peyton and then Andrew Luck right after him. Well,
so
there was
Luck
one
retired. They who was it? It was Jacoby Brissett. Then they had Phillip Rivers, and then Matt Ryan, and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan.
Yeah,
I think this is Ballard's first quarterback pick if it's a quarterback.
and they take
Anthony Richardson. So Will Levis is still on the board for whoever wants him, and they went with the electrifying runner.
I wonder if Tennessee moves up now.
Didn't they just pick a guy up? They're going to give up on, what's his name, Malik Hooker already?
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. Yeah, Malik Willis.
Willis.
So Hooker.
Malik Hooker is a former free safety.
Former? Did he retire?
Did he retire? Oh no! You know what? He might have signed with the Cowboys last year. He might be on the Cowboys right now.
Malik Hooker.
He had back-to-back seasons with serious injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still with the Cowboys?
He's still with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So there it is.
I know the Dolphins brought him in for an interview.
Yeah, they brought him in when he was like a year out of football due to the injuries, and there was a rumor that he might retire.
He's 27. That's a fast career.
You know what NFL stands for?
Yeah, I know, not for long, and no fun league. So, yep. I had an inkling when Mark Higgs was on with Dono that, you know what, I'm starting to think this whole Will Levis thing is not going to happen. Because I feel like they really wanted this guy who could just nowadays, I feel like being a dual threat quarterback is so much more important than it used to be. Like being just a pure pocket passer is starting to go the way of the dinosaur a little bit. They want you to be able to run and take off a lot if they can, because that has a whole other wrinkle to your offense that didn't exist before. So now that begs the question: who takes Will Levis?
My cord got disconnected there for a moment.
No worries.
I think you're right in that teams are looking for the dual threat quarterback, but I think you also have to do that with the idea that you're probably not getting the full kind of term career that you'll get from a standard pocket passer. And because just the toll that running and getting hit takes will shorten their career, I think. And I think
they're going to take a beating. They're going to take a beating. And I'm sure that
the prime example is Cam Newton. And I remember I went to the Dolphins Panthers preseason game in 2012, and I had end zone seats, and it was right where the teams come out, and Cam Newton was out there in the end zone kind of dancing around. They don't let you do this now, but back then you could walk right up to the railing and get pictures or say hey or whatever. So I was about 30 feet from Cam Newton. He was bigger than every linebacker on the Dolphins roster. Just physically bigger. His shoulders were wider, just a bigger dude. He's a quarterback that, like, if he's running the ball, he's going to be successful at it. And even then, the toll was taken on his career. It did not last. So if you get a quarterback like this, and I think that's what they were talking about with Josh Allen, is that he runs the ball a lot, he does well with it, but it's week 2 against the Browns. You don't need to try to be bowling over a safety, because you're going to shorten your career by doing that. So, I mean, you take this guy, he's a big dude, physical, but you're probably getting at best 10, 11 quality years out of him if he hits, and that's it.
Well, the comparison that I saw just now on ESPN was for Donovan McNabb. I don't know if you guys agree with that assessment.
I can kind of see it. He's a much, much better athlete than Donovan McNabb. But Donovan McNabb was a much, much better thrower of the football. So I could kind of see it if that's going to be the ceiling. Like, it makes some sense.
So who does Seattle take? I'm trying to figure out what exactly the needs are for these guys.
Devin Witherspoon, I think, makes the most sense, in my opinion.
Who now?
Devin Witherspoon, the top cornerback in the draft.
Oh, a corner. Okay.
Yeah, they have a very, very good corner that they drafted last year. In my opinion, he should have won Rookie of the Year, Tariq Woolen. Why not pair him with another one?
And they also have they drafted Kobe Bryant, didn't they?
Yeah, and he played in the slot. So
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you said Kobe Bryant. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's Kobe Bryant. It's actually
oh, for real?
Yeah.
Like, actually, oh, okay.
The only thing, it's not Kobe, it's Coby, Kobe Bryant. But think about it. You get Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon. Your secondary is starting to look really, really, really good in a throwing league. Man, I love it. And all of them cheap on rookie deals. Yeah, I love it. That would be a dream. That's a dream for a general manager, to have 3 premium players at a premium position on rookie deals.
I could see him, or is it Tyree Wilson?
Jalen Carter is supposedly the best player on the board at the moment with defensive tackles, and
which is also a possibility because Seattle needs something up front. Yeah, another cornerback that's possible is Joey Porter Jr. here. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of good cornerbacks, very, very deep in this draft.
And ironically, it's the one year where we don't need one, supposedly.
Yeah. which is it's.
I mean, do you think Chris Grier can pull off a miracle and trade Noah Igbenogany out of here for a fifth or sixth round pick?
Crazier things have happened.
Kalen Ballage.
If you look at his age, well, Kalen Ballage was a guy who had had pretty good tape and a pretty good reputation and tested off the charts at 230 pounds. So, everybody liked him. And truth be told, something went on with him because when he came in, he was showing enough promise that he was going to be a capable NFL player.
No, yeah, I thought so too. I remember seeing him in going and seeing him at community events. We made the whole thing about how he was pretending to hold a lightsaber. That was a whole lot of fun. He was a lot of fun. Just didn't work out so good.
Now, Noah Benogany, if you look at his age, man, somebody's going to look at him and say, you know what? Maybe we could do something with this. Let's throw a fifth round pick at them and see if they'll bite. So I can see something like that.
Any team that throws a fifth round pick at Miami for Noah Igbenogany, I'm going to say we'll even throw in Austin Jackson for free.
Well, he has a little bit more value because of playing right tackle, and he was the middle of the first round pick.
Yeah, just sign Cameron Fleming, we'll be fine.
I've posted this on the Finsider, and I posted this a couple of times on Twitter, or at least did I do this week. Is that I think Chris Grier panic drafted Austin Jackson, and what makes it worse is that Trent Williams was traded for a couple of day 3 picks 2 days later. So, I mean, I would have traded 18 and 25 for Trent Williams and felt good about it.
And he's the best left tackle in football now, right?
Yep.
All righty, so I think the Seahawks pick is in. Just we're taking forever to get there. That's the one thing I never liked about this draft. I understand that everybody's here and they want to drag it out, but y'all are going to be here for 3 or 4 hours. You're going to get tired eventually.
I still think Miami could draft a corner as well.
Well, I mean,
at 84, I don't think it's crazy that Miami takes a corner. Yeah.
I mean, you don't think they'll take one at 51?
Nah, at 51, I think they're going to want somebody that's going to play a lot of snaps.
Yeah, I mean, they want somebody who's going to contribute.
Because they can't do that. They can't do that 2 years in a row where they just pick a bunch of red shirt guys,
And the pick is...
And I nailed that one.
Devin Witherspoon. Okay, so a cornerback for the Seahawks. So far, aside from the Anthony Richardson thing, pretty much everything is going as scheduled. For the most part, anyway. No big surprises. So that leaves Detroit next. I mean, I guess Jared Goff is the guy. I'd draft Will Levis if I was the Detroit Lions.
Seattle just took Detroit's guy.
Oh, they wanted Devin Witherspoon?
I think they want a corner.
I mean, I can't imagine that the Lions are satisfied with Jared Goff, though, man. I understand that he did good in his particular offense, but not, that good. That's right up there with the whole Carson Wentz thing for me. You might as well have... there's a reason that they wanted Matthew Stafford, the Rams did, over Jared Goff. So I'm looking now, by the way, just to follow up on the whole cornerback situation. So unless you're drafting for the future, currently Miami has on the roster, they have Keon Crossan, who is hopefully going to be relegated back to being a special teamer, Elijah Campbell, Trill Williams, who we didn't get to see, and Alf, you said that he looks fantastic in training camp. It was a tragedy that he got hurt when he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Trill Williams coming back. Jalen Ramsey is here. Hello. Oh, my God. Nick Needham is back, hopefully back to full strength. Kader Kohu, he turned out to be a stud, and now he's going to be corner 3 or a nickel, whatever you want to put him as. And they still have, obviously, Xavier Howard. And if absolute emergency happens, Justin Bethel did actually pretty darn good actually playing cornerback. I would have put him over Keon Crossan, to be perfectly honest, but that's just me. So Miami's got a full stable of corners at this point. I don't see the need for drafting another corner. Again, if you're really wanting somebody who's going to contribute, even at 84, I wouldn't go ahead and do that, because even at 84, you can still get a guy who can actually do something for your team this year. So I would also say, though, at least to even counter my own point, if we're going to go for guys who are going to contribute now, you've mentioned this, Alf, is that drafting a tight end is going to be counterintuitive to that, because you don't think that a tight end is really going to be playing that much, because they just extended Durham Smythe. They did go ahead and they signed Eric Saubert. So I figure the veterans are going to get an advantage at least early on. So they would have to pick a tight end who was just really getting it instantly in order for him to get a lot of snaps. So I get that part of it. So, but I would also say that I feel like they're going to give other established players more of a shot against the rookies too. So that's what makes this draft so difficult. It's like the only place that you could perceivably draft a guy and they would immediately play for sure is possibly the offensive line, because at least they have the chance to compete with Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg for a spot. And it's not like those guys set a very high bar.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, like they're already there. Like there's no question about it. Even if you pick the quarterback, you still have to compete with Tua. At running back, you still have to deal with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, and they already know the offense inside and out. Wide receiver, they're not going to get on the field very easily unless they beat out Braxton Berrios and Eric Ezukanma, who, even though he didn't get it really well last year, he at least has been in the offense for a year. You also have on the defensive side, David Long Jr., Jerome Baker are still there, so a linebacker is not going to be easy to find. Safeties, Javon Holland. I mean, you could draft a safety and you'd have a chance to start.
At 51, man, if Brian Branch drops to them, absolutely. But man, for that to happen, I just don't see it. I think Branch goes somewhere in the middle of the first round.
Arizona's on the clock.
Arizona traded back up?
Yep.
I wonder what they just gave up.
They went from that's almost the exact same as the Jalen Waddle. Miami went from 3 to 12 to 6. Arizona went from 3 to 12 to 6.
So who's their Jalen Waddle? You think Arizona wants? No, wait, because you said Kyler Murray wanted to tackle.
I think they could have got a tackle at 12, but
maybe they want the tackle. Get Kyler Murray to calm down a little bit. It's kind of interesting how much
Paris Johnson makes sense here.
You think he's number 1 on the board?
It's a possibility, because you got to understand that what a lot of us, like, a lot of draft nicks like me and internet scouts, I guess you can call them,
Duke
what they think and what teams think are two different things. And remember that we learned very, very late in the process that Paris Johnson was moving way, way up on a lot of boards. And he was actually like a top 10 talent. So it could be that somebody has that high of an evaluation on him. If he's the top tackle, yeah, this is where he probably would go.
Well, you got to think you're at 12. Tennessee needs a tackle. Who else up at the top needs a tackle?
I'm just looking through Sports Illustrated what the needs are for these teams.
Atlanta, Chicago, all of them could use a tackle. So yeah,
Chicago, yeah.
So yeah, you want to get ahead
Tennessee,
of those guys.
New York, the Jets.
Well, they were ahead of the Jets anyway.
New England.
So yeah, you wanted to but this way you kind of ensure you get the guy you want to get. So
Cap for Life says Jalen Carter is the perfect Dan Campbell guy. I mean, they both have the same violent streak, I suppose. It'd be very interesting to see who this is. Because
so, I've got Daniel Jeremiah's best available. And the only offensive lineman they've got on his board as top available is Peter Skoronski.
Okay, so they gave up the 12th and the 20. Oh, and their second round pick. So they kept the extra first rounder for next year.
And whoever, I don't know who Detroit's general manager is, but he moves just like I move on Madden. Like I'm always collecting picks.
I could never get into doing draft picks on Madden because all the players that are on there are just no name people that I don't even know their names. There's no fun in that. What I would love to do, like here, like EA Sports, I'm giving you free real estate here. Okay, literally make a game where you actually play the year before the one you're currently in. So that way you have the chance to let your fan base draft the players they wanted to draft in the first place. Instead of picking a bunch of no-name computer generated nonsense that nobody could give a flying crap about. And that way you extend playtime.
Yep.
Okay, so there it is, Paris Johnson. So I guess that calms Kyler Murray down.
So yeah, that dream is dead now.
Yeah.
Although, did you guys see the? I don't know how you say his last name, Router, Chad Reuter, whatever, on NFL.
Chad Reader?
Yeah, on NFL.com. He did his 7-round mock draft, and DeWant Jones made it all the way to 79.
Now, no, yeah, that was a guy that the Dolphins could have potentially picked. And honestly, if he was there, I would be very, very tempted to pick him, even if he's not a scheme fit.
Oh, I mean, Miami picks at 84. He went at 79. I'm like, I would trade 84 and both of those day 3 picks, move up to 79 or wherever, and take DeWan Jones. And I think the 51 was Sam Laporta. So if you came out of this draft with Sam Laporta and DeWan Jones and that was it, I'm okay with that.
Now, I don't know if you heard the show or if you were listening in on the Pulse of Fins Nation, Duke, but Alfredo made the case for Keanu Benton, a defensive tackle at 51.
I've been watching various things, listening to various things when I can, and yeah, if he's there, I can see him. I know a lot of people are high on Mozzie Smith, but like I was talking about earlier, I mean, you got, the Piper's going to come calling, and we've got 3 defensive tackles or 3 interior defensive linemen that are on contract seasons, and it's probably not going to be likely you can keep all of them. So who's the odd man out? You're definitely keeping Christian Wilkins.
I really don't feel like it's that impossible, though. I really don't. And the reason I feel that way is because after next year, you're going to trim some fat anyway. So does anybody truly believe at this point that Christian Wilkins goes into the season without a new contract?
No, I think he's signed, but to me, the odd guy out is Raekwon Davis, and he's a decent player. He just hasn't lived up necessarily to the billing and what you expect. Now, I think possibly a scheme change to what we're going to now will do him some good. I think if he's allowed just to attack one gap more than try to just be a block absorber, I think he's going to we'll see some improvement from him. But I could see Benton, Smith, any of those as a player that Miami would target and could use. I think from what I've read, Benton is a little more has a little more pass rush upside than Mozzie Smith.
Mozzie Smith is really, really complete player. I've given a lot of film work to Keanu Benton, and I feel pretty comfortable in calling him what I'm about to call him. But did you see that movie Cocaine Bear?
I have not.
Okay, that's what Keanu Benton reminds me of. He can look like if he's playing a little bit out of control, but when you have a guy that plays from 3 tech to 1 shade to 0, that's not a bad thing, man. As long as he's not overrunning his responsibility, he's shooting gaps and he's getting upfield. Those are all good things. And you know how scouts love to talk about heavy-handed defensive linemen? He is the very, very definition of that. Great hands.
He has a wrestling background, does he not?
Yeah, he does. So and which is a great thing to have. It's something that you always look for in interior linemen. And it checks out again on Keanu Benton. I like him a lot. I like other players better, but I do believe that could be where they land. It's a hell of a shot to call, to try to call a draft pick 51 picks out, But I think that's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, and especially for linemen, interior linemen on either side, a wrestling background just gives you that grappling that you got to deal with. And that was when I started looking at prospects a couple of years ago, and I read that about Creed Humphrey. I'm like, yep, I'm sold at that point. And he was still there at 42, 43, wherever we drafted, and I'm still salty about that.
I don't know who this Christian Gonzalez, a cornerback. He's got quite a chin. He's got the facial shape of a Greek god. He was just on camera here on ESPN. I'm guessing the Raiders need a corner.
The Raiders need all kinds of stuff.
They need a quarterback, Jimmy G.
That poor guy, everywhere he goes, he gets supplanted.
Do the Dolphins play the Raiders this year?
No.
Oh, never mind. I mean, it sounds cruel that I'm hoping that they do just to see if he gets hurt again, but it's like that seems to be the running joke. Every time Garoppolo runs up against the Dolphins, his season is over.
Well, it's not a running joke. It's an actual fact. He's played the Dolphins 3 times in his career, and 3 times the Dolphins have ended his season. And he's done it in 3 different teams. Well, two different teams, Patriots and 49ers. But, I guess now he's going to try to do it in 3 different teams. I've always felt that if Anthony Richardson did not get taken early, that this was going to be the perfect spot for him. Learn behind Jimmy G and then take over in 2 years,
I mean, wouldn't that also fall for Will Levis too?
Nah, Will Levis is supposed to be a little bit more pro-ready than Anthony Richardson.
I mean, what makes him more pro-ready, though? The fact that he has a bigger arm, or is he just more accurate?
More accurate and plays in a system that requires him to read defenses the way quarterbacks in the NFL read defenses. So it also has to do with the system that they played in. So, Richardson needs a lot of schooling, which is going to take an entire offseason, an entire preseason, and probably an entire regular season to get accustomed to.
I just feel like there.
Although, in my opinion, the most pro-ready quarterback out of all of them, you saw them taken first and second.
I feel like there are like certain cheat codes that some players can have to have earlier success in their careers, and I feel like with Herbert, especially, that was one of them. You have a cannon for an arm; you can make up for a lot of the different mistakes that you can make just by throwing it hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets away with a lot of stuff. So I was wondering if maybe Will Levis had that in his advantage. Is like, I've got a really big arm, I'm going to use it, and I'm going to put up some numbers wherever I go.
Yeah, there's not a throw that he can't make. Like that's a fact. But then you have a guy like C.J. Stroud, whose arm is not overwhelming; it's average. But he is deadly accurate. Maybe a little bit better than Tua, but slightly less accurate than Tua.
So a little bit of a trade-off there.
Yeah, so he's like, he's kind of like Tua, but he's at 6'3", 220 pounds. So, you have that going for you. In my opinion, he was quarterback 1. This is going to be a really interesting pick here. All right.
So a defensive end. Okay. And I mean, that wasn't on their list of needs either, but I guess need is a relative term.
Well, I'll put this out there. I heard Brian Billett say this on NFL Network during the draft or during the combine one time. They were talking. I don't know who was talking to him. Maybe Charles. What's his name? Charles Smith. I can't even think of it right now. Anyway, they were talking to him about drafting for need versus drafting best player available. And I think Brian Billett was talking about when he was with the Ravens. He said, "Yeah, we always drafted the best player available. It just also happened to fit a need."
I mean, but that's not really news per se. The Dolphins have been doing that supposedly for years. It's like draft just draft the best player at position of need.
I mean, unless you have a, you know, uh, a player that just doesn't come off the field, you need at least 3 edge rushers. Um,
Which Miami does have. Thank you very much.
yeah, and I think I was listening to, I think it was one of y'all shows one night about the talking about whose contracts got restructured and whose didn't, and I think you guys were talking about how I cannot think of his name off the top of my head.
What position?
Emmanuel Ogba.
Oh yeah, Ogba.
Mhm.
Oh no, yeah, Ogba
is a guy that you like. Yeah, you'd like to get out of that contract, but he's also a player that you need in the
Yes.
sense of he gives you an edge rusher who can play in a 4-man front, and he can play the 5 tech in a 3-man front. He's even big enough to kind of shade inside somewhat, so he gives you some versatility. You wish it was at a little bit lower contract price, but unless you find a taker who's like, I'm giving you something really valuable for him, he's worth keeping on the roster.
But to go back to a previous point that I was trying to make earlier, is like I feel like that's why that you can afford to be able to pay all your tackles, or not all of them. I'm not worried about Raekwon Davis so much. I'm worried about Christian Wilkins, who I think he's going to get paid this year, and Zach Sealer, who should get paid next year, because I absolutely 100% want to be able to keep my modern day Daryl Gardner and Tim Bowens. Christian Wilkins gets signed this year. We get him to a contract where he's going to be able to get his early one done, so that way we can at least have space for the first season. We give him a raise in the second season, but by then we will be able to go ahead and move on from Emmanuel Ogba, because that is pretty much an inevitability at this point, I feel like. So no more Ogba after this year. And then more than likely, you're probably going to move on from Jerome Baker as well. So if that's the case, then you're going to be able to, I said it before, you basically free up $23 million just by dumping those 2 guys. And so that saves a lot of cap space. That saves a lot of room for what you need. So at that point, you have the money right there. It's all that money that you just saved, getting rid of Baker and getting rid of Ogba. You give that money to Zach Sealer.
To look at the draft for a moment, I think we're in the zone right now where Bijan Robinson coming off the board is not going to surprise anyone.
I got him going to Philadelphia at 10.
I think Atlanta could sneak in and take him, but
I mean, I think that if the Falcons are going to take anybody, like who is the quarterback for the Falcons right now?
Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, no. I would think that this will be a good place to pick Will Levis, just because you need a quarterback. Desmond Ritter does not scream the star of the show to me.
And I said this on Facebook to one of my friends that's a big Panthers fan, and this was the 2021 draft. I'm like, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Broncos, they all passed on Justin Fields. And the players they got were very good players. I mean, the Broncos got Pat Surtain Jr. I can't remember. The Panthers got that cornerback from South Carolina, and I don't remember who the Falcons took Kyle Pitts. But now you're looking at it. Well, the Panthers had to trade DJ Moore and a bunch of picks to get a quarterback. Denver spent a bunch of picks and money to get Russell Wilson, who did not play up to the level you expect of him. And now the Falcons are kind of like, yeah, we don't have a quarterback. And I was explaining to my friend, it's like, when you need a quarterback, you draft a quarterback. If you fail, you fail and start over. But you don't skip to take positions of lesser needs. And so, well, I mean, what QB situation would you rather have right now? The Bears with Justin Fields, or the Panthers, Falcons, or Broncos?
I mean, I feel like that at any point right now, you obviously want the one that is actually fairly established. I mean, Russell Wilson, I think he's washed. I think he's done. I really do. I think he's done. Like, I don't think there's any gas left in that tank. Plus, he's a little. He's starting to go the way of Aaron Rodgers a little bit. He's a little in the head.
I mean, so it just goes to show that you don't pass up a quarterback when you need one. So I don't know. I don't know if the Falcons.
Do the Falcons think they need one? Wasn't Ritter a draft pick?
He was a third-round pick last year.
Oh, a third rounder? Nah.
Or third rounder, wasn't it?
Looking it up now. Desmond Ritter. He was drafted.
I believe it was third round, right?
Third round.
Third round, I believe.
Trying to look it up now. I don't know why it's so hard to find it all of a sudden.
I got Wikipedia already pulled up. So.
Oh, you pulled it up. Okay, that's what I was looking for. I was like,
why is round pick 74?
Okay, so he was the third rounder.
Part of our work on social justice through our initiative, Inspiring Change. Dolphins are big time supporters of the organization and feel that there is a change making their pick. Okay, guys, take it away.
I can hear the echo of that sound. That sound. There it is, Bijan Robinson.
Snipe that one.
Okay.
So yeah, they weren't falling. They weren't falling to the 20s.
That's wild. Okay, so a running back comes off the board. So now let's. This is what most people are probably talking about right now. Is like, when does Will Levis get picked? Like, how much further down can we go? Who needs a quarterback that's left?
Tennessee.
But again, didn't they just draft a quarterback? Like, are we really
did
they give up on him already?
Unless there's just smoke screen. They've said that they're not high on him anymore. They definitely want Tannehill out of there. So, I mean, I think that's the next logical spot for him. After that,
you're talking about Tannehill or the guy that the Titans has drafted?
I mean, for Will Levis, I think Tennessee is a reasonable landing spot for him. I don't know who's on pick 10.
Pick 10 would be no, it's not. It's definitely not pick 10. The Eagles.
I know who pick 10 is. I think I meant pick 9.
Oh, pick 9. Pick 9.
That's Chicago, right?
Yeah, that's also not happening.
Okay, so they're not. Yeah, so the next team
the
up
Jets,
is going to be
New England. 14.
No.
You think
Detroit is at 12, so he can go 11 or 12.
Didn't Detroit just pick? They traded.
They traded to 12.
Oh, that's right.
Arizona. So he could go 11 to Tennessee, 12 to Detroit.
I think
Green Bay, if we're being funny about it.
I'm being dead serious right now, okay? I would not be surprised if he continues to fall that Will Levis lands in New England. Because I think the Mac Jones experience is safely over.
Well, I mean, I'm not a fan of Mac Jones, and I hope the Patriots, and I've said this, I know I've tweeted this to Alf several times, but and Alf's tweeted, like, we don't want the Patriots to have a bad season and get a high draft pick and get a good quarterback. I personally think the Patriots should finish 8 and 9 for the rest of eternity. Like, just dwell in mediocrity, live there, and enjoy it.
That'd be nice.
So
I think the Eagles just swapped picks with Chicago. So
they won't.
They leapfrogged each other.
They won't Christian Gonzalez.
Who's missing for the Eagles? Like they are other than
well,
a
they
running back.
Well, they brought back Slay, and they lost Bradbury. Did they not, or did he come back?
James Bradbury.
So,
Yeah, he's no, he's with the Eagles.
okay, so they could probably use another corner. I don't know who the third corner is, and they did lose Gardner Johnson.
So a safety.
I wouldn't think of safety at this point, but I mean, you got to have at least 3 starting corners, and I don't know who their third corner is, to be honest.
Because I know that CK retweeted it from Akbar.
Well, last year they played mostly CJ Gardner Johnson at nickel. So I don't know who's playing there this year. They brought back Darius Slay. It was rumored they were going to cut him, and then they ended up bringing him back.
I mean, no, but I guess they couldn't get a market.
I'm looking at boards here. Unless they go after a pass rusher.
I mean, they just passed up Miles Sanders, and the rumor was that they were trading for Derrick Henry, which actually never happened, but still.
Now that's the trade I've put on Twitter a couple times. Is if Tennessee calls, if Miami's at 51 and Tennessee calls, I'm trading 51, going back to 72, and I'm wanting Derrick Henry in that trade, because if, dear Lord, if you get Derrick Henry on this team, that's every Madden offense that you've ever played with. Like, how do you defend that? You're going to put 8 guys in the box? Well, good luck with that. You're going to lighten the box to cover the receivers? Derrick Henry's going to run all over you. It's not going to happen, but, man, we can dream, can't we?
Well, let's get your thoughts on this, because the rumors are Dalvin Cook. Like, every single Dalvin Cook rumor is surrounding the Miami Dolphins right now.
I mean, I like Dalvin Cook, and he's a good player, and he would be an upgrade at the running back position. I'm not going to get into the financials of it because that's above my pay grade, but I mean, he would be an upgrade, and he would do things. The benefit, in my opinion, of him over Henry is he's going to be an asset in the pass game. Derrick Henry just doesn't catch a lot of passes. They've never really used him in that regard.
They've never needed to. He's a bulldozer. He has one job.
So I mean, they'll throw some to him on occasion, but it's just not a big part of his game. Whereas Cook is going to get you that a guy you can probably flank out wide a little more, a guy that you're going to throw the ball to a little more. I mean, I don't care. I think the acquisition cost for Dalvin Cook is going to be a lot less. Possibly even 0 if he's.
Oh yeah, the Vikings have no leverage. The Vikings have no leverage. Like every rumor has been Dalvin Cook wants to come to Miami, which is no surprise to anybody. Anybody could guess that. But the rumor is that Dalvin Cook, he likes the whole idea of the FSU. Isn't that the FSU team up again? Jalen Ramsey being here too. Didn't they talk about that when he was traded to Miami? Jalen Ramsey.
I'm sure that's in consideration, but it's mostly about his family. His entire family is down here.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. And Jalen Carter to the Eagles.
Yeah, that one's a good call.
So Cook for the Dolphins would be it's a plus, and you can get him for cheap acquisition cost.
I'd throw a 6th-round pick at the Vikings and say, I dare you to reject this, because otherwise who's going to take him?
And
I think they'll reject that. I think they would want something more strategic, like a pick swap.
Well, the rumor that I saw on Twitter was Cedric Wilson and a pick swap of 2024 picks for Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, that's that. I know where that rumor came from.
That's what I saw. So, I have no sources.
Join OnlyFans, Duke.
I actually meant to ask you guys that on the YouTube channel, but for whatever reason, like when I'm typing stuff in there, it doesn't come out the way I want it to. Sometimes I don't know.
What do you mean? Like
by the way,
YouTube
that
live streams.
Yeah. By the way, Alf, that was me that you were talking about quarterbacks fitting the city, and I said, does Tua fit Miami? That was entirely a joke.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, that was me just.
Yeah, I told him it was a joke.
Yeah,
I know you, man. I
that
know
was
you.
me just stoking the flames there. But
But you wanted to ask about OnlyFins? Only $3 a month, folks. Get on Discord. Get the best insider news, which is not meant to be shared, people.
so yeah, the other thing I like about Henry to the Dolphins is he is on the final year of his contract. He's got 2 void years after this, but it's a 1-year deal. It's a $10 million cap hit. You absolutely extend him at least one more season, reduce that cap hit, maybe guarantee it, pay it all, whatever. But you split that cap hit up over 2 years, and you've got a freaking hammer that nobody wants to tackle that guy in the fourth quarter, and nobody wants to chase down Tyreek and Jalen Waddle in the fourth quarter. Like I said, you get him on the team, you somehow fix the offensive line, and it's 40 points a game.
Oh no, yeah. The fantasy is amazing. The idea of I was wanting Derrick Henry the very first time I heard he was even available to go away from the Tennessee Titans. I was like, absolutely, throw all the money at Derrick Henry. And people were saying that, oh no, he's older, he's got a lot of tread on the tires, got lost. He's not going to be that same guy in a few years. We are now like 3 years after that time, and he is still Derrick Henry.
Well, I mean, and the thought process is smart behind that. You don't want to throw a lot of money at an older running back, especially one.
I will throw all the money at Derrick Henry still today.
The mileage that he has, because Tennessee has basically ran the wheels off.
I will still throw all the money at Derrick Henry.
But the benefit to adding him to the Dolphins is that he's not going to be a 30 carry a game guy. He's not. I think last year he averaged like 22 or 24 carries a game. He's not going to be that guy in Miami. He's going to get 15, 16 carries a game. So he can prolong his career, get more life out of his tires by playing this, because they're gonna run Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson if they can.
Let me pose this to you. Let me pose this to you. Are you going to pay? How much money is Derrick Henry making annually right now?
Well, he's got what's left on his deal is he's got 1 year left. It's like a $10 or a $12 million cap hit, somewhere in that range.
Are you paying a running back $12 million a year or more to get 15 carries a game?
No, what I do is I extend 1 more year to that deal. I give him a 1 year extension, spread that $12 million out over 2 years, and you get him for, say.
Would Derrick Henry take that deal? I'm not sure he would. I think he's still going to look at you and say, I'm still Derrick Henry. Who the hell do you think I am?
Well, I mean, if you offer it to him, I mean, he may not, but I mean, that's what I would attempt to do. Or maybe even extend him, give him a little more guaranteed money, do it over 3 seasons, whatever. And then, I think at some point he's going to look at it, and he trains like a beast if you've ever watched his training videos. But, he's like, well, at some point the wheels are just going to fall off, and you want to prolong your career as much as possible.
It took an Achilles injury to make Cameron Wake's wheels fall off, man. Like, yeah, I don't know.
And so the only way that you're going to extend his career for the type of player he is just to give him less carries.
And let me say something about giving him 15 carries and whether that's worth the $12 million a year. Yeah, I think whatever snaps he plays is what makes his money worth it. Because every single time that he's lined up in 11 personnel and he's 7 yards behind the quarterback, that's an effective snap already. Because the defense has to honor outside zone with him. So, he's going to help. He would help the passing game immensely. But I really don't think that they're in on him. I think the more likely one is going to be Dalvin Cook, because it's easier to pull off.
Yeah, no, if a player actually wants to be in Miami, obviously that makes a whole world of difference, because he's going to be pushing the other team to say, hey, I want to go there, and I don't want to go anywhere else.
I mean, I think all the players want to be in Miami, honestly, but
yeah. I mean, a lot of, like, Jalen Ramsey was in Florida for a long time, right? He went to FSU when he went to school, so he's obviously got a heart for Florida. Dalvin Cook went to FSU. His whole family, as Alf said, is in Miami. Okay, there goes
Done all
another
right.
tackle. So they're going to keep Justin Fields upright so he can continue to run for 100 yards per game. Who is he pointing at? What's going on?
He's at home. He's down in the green room.
Oh, okay. I was like, why did Roger Goodell look so confused? So there you go. Does this start the run on tackles?
Possibly.
Tennessee's in a bind too because they need a quarterback. They need a tackle.
Well, Tennessee didn't hesitate. They're in already.
Oh, they've been on the clock for 5 minutes already.
Fair enough.
That's how they do this. Yeah, the Cook thing is about the contract. So, I mean, I'm sure the powers that be that are discussing this are working out the fine print to get that deal in a manageable situation where it's not the cap hits that it what is it? It's like how much this year? And it's like 12 million and 14 million the next 2 years.
Dalvin Cook,
Yes.
I believe, it's about 14 or 15, but very little guarantees. So he's easily cut at the end of the year.
I mean, if I were the Dolphins, if let's just say this trade actually is in the works, because we don't have like for sure any guarantee that that's the case. If that is indeed happening, then if I'm the Dolphins, I'm going to look at you and say, I'll give you more guaranteed money, but we got to lower your cap hit.
Well, that will be the strategy. He's going to want to come in and get some of that money that he's owed guaranteed. Problem is that it's so much money that the way you got to do it is if you bring him in, you're going to renegotiate. You're going to negotiate essentially a pay cut. You're going to tell him, look, you're going to take a pay cut, but it's going to be more guaranteed money. So that means that you're going to have to add a year maybe. So maybe a third option year.
How old is Dalvin Cook anyway? I'm going to look this up real quick.
He'll be 28 on my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, happy birthday to you and him. 27. I mean, it's not terrible. And he still runs for 1,000 yards every single year, even with the lessened payload.
Yeah, and he was injured though. His medicals.
Right, that's the thing. He was injured and he still ran for 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
So he
made huge game-changing plays. Don't forget the game down here. Dolphins had him bottled up the entire game. He essentially won it with that 51-yard touchdown run, and then the game in Buffalo with the 88-yard touchdown run.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a flight to Texas. I wasn't able to watch that game, which I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't.
So, see, over his career, he's had, I'm doing some quick math here. So he's had 1,503 total touches.
I'm sorry, what?
Dalvin Cook over his career has had slightly over 1,500 total touches between.
Oh, okay. You're talking about
between receptions and carries.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, that's not high mileage.
Let me get 2 minutes.
All right, no problem.
Let's see. He's got had 56 targets last year. It's not too bad.
So, again, this whole discussion comes down to how badly do you want a star running back? Because we still have this discussion to make about Jahmyr Gibbs, right? We've heard that Mike McDaniel really, really likes Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, he really would love the opportunity to go up and get him. And he would be a perfect fit for this offense. Like, never mind the whole, yes, Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry would both force defenses to respect them just because of what kind of a playmaking capability they both have. But neither of them necessarily fit the scheme per se, right? Because this team doesn't want power rushers. They want zone guys.
Dalvin Cook is going to give you. He is a an upgraded version of what Raheem Mostert's going to give you. He's not necessarily he's not the big physical bruising back. He's going to give you that.
That
He's
was
going
all
to fit
the impression I got of him.
He's going to. I mean, they all run with power, but I mean, they all run. Most running backs run physically, but he fits. I think he fits the wide zone a little bit better than Derrick Henry does, although Henry can run it. In my opinion, it's all about the acquisition cost, and then the contract is the back end. So, in a perfect world, and Jahmyr Gibbs is there at 51. You're looking at draft picks and contract money for Cook or Henry, or one draft pick and a rookie contract for Jahmyr Gibbs.
But I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs makes it all the way to 51. There's no way.
Like I said, so it depends on the cost it would take. If that's your guy, I'm not trading into the first round for him. I'm just not doing that.
But that's what it seems like it's going to take if you want him.
Well, I mean, if that's what it takes, then I'll go a different route, just because that's going to cost you a future first. And with Tua's injury history, and you know me, I'm a Tua guy. I'm a fan. I think he can be a very, very good quarterback. But if he gets to a point where he's always going to miss time, and you don't think that he's going to be a long-term answer because of it, then you need that first-round pick next year so that you can go get a guy. And if you don't have it, you're going to be in the same boat that the Jets are in. So, you know, we all know the news with Aaron Rodgers. If that fails, all right, so let's say, you know, if they go deep in the playoffs, he'll probably come back. But let's say they go 9-8 and miss the playoffs. He was 90% retired before doing this. He's not going to come back for a team that's playing for third in the AFC East.
I mean, depending on how the New York media treats him, he still might not come back, but we'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, well, if you
Tennessee,
make it, it's going to be Will Levis. That's my guess.
It is Peter Skoronski.
Okay.
So a tackle to protect Ryan Tannehill.
Well, and they lost in consecutive seasons.
Right?
They lost.
Taylor Lewan's not there anymore, right?
No, he's a free agent, and he's got injury history too.
Oh, but he has injury history. Because I was about to say, it's like, why has nobody talked about him?
He's missed I think the last 2 seasons with a knee injury. In 2021, I think it was an ACL. I don't know about last year, but he missed pretty much the whole season. And so, yeah, they didn't re-sign him. And then the season before that, they lost Conklin to free agency. I remember
when y'all were all over.
That was 2020. That was 2020 actually, and that was the Isaiah Wilson pick. So Tennessee, they lost Conklin to free agency. They drafted Isaiah Wilson, who flamed out gloriously, and then they drafted Petit Ferrer. Did I say it correctly?
We're talking about Titans tackles.
Yeah, and so they drafted him last year, and he filled in. I think okay. They also drafted a guy the year that I liked. He was at the Senior Bowl. He was from North Dakota State. I cannot remember his name.
Oh wait, ESPN is putting Skoronski as a guard.
Yeah, that's what he's going to play. Yeah, his arms are way too short to play tackle. He's going to be, in my opinion, he'll be like the next Zach Martin. I think he'll make 6, 7, 8 Pro Bowls at guard. If you put him at tackle, you're essentially wasting what could be his best talent.
And they also lost Nate Davis in free agency this year as well. So the Titans' offensive line went from being a top 10 unit to being worse than the Dolphins.
Well, to be fair, we added actually good players to our offensive line.
Yeah, but I mean they have very well. The pick is in for Detroit, and they're still showing Will Levis, so it's not Will Levis.
Yeah.
This might be Christian Gonzalez.
I'm telling, like Ernesto Gonzalez chimed in a little bit earlier saying Antoine had said that the Patriots are not likely to take Will Levis. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, there's something in my gut that's saying that Belichick is ready to try again. Like he's over the Mac Jones thing. And since Lamar Jackson is going back to Baltimore, I think, is he getting paid more than Jalen Hurts? I think he is.
Okay, hang on a second.
Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs. There it is.
Wow.
Yeah,
Now
that's way high.
So are they seeing flashes of Barry Sanders in this kid? Going to try to recapture the old magic?
No. Now, I'm not necessarily a football historian. I've watched it for many years, but I have not seen a player like Barry Sanders since Barry Sanders. He was something else.
I'm one of a kind, I'm sure, but I get like it feels like the Lions have been trying for a while now to pick up a running back who can like kind of remind people of those days.
Now, I'll ask you guys this: what's the chances Miami's interested in DeAndre Swift?
I mean, at this point, 0, I would say.
I mean, he's obviously the odd man out here, is he not?
They picked up David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like what is DeAndre Swift gonna do?
That's a 6th or 7th round pick.
I mean, Swift fell pretty far in that draft. Is it possible that he's just not as good as we all thought he was?
Well, I mean, but if you get him for like a 6th or 7th round pick, that's a Myles Gaskin pick. Why not try it?
I just feel like, listen, like if the only way that I'm dumping, the only reason I'm taking somebody else's running back is if I know for absolute sure that whoever it is way better than the guys we already have. And I'm not convinced that DeAndre Swift would beat out Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert.
Well, and if you're sending a late round pick or a future late round pick for a guy like that, I mean, in my opinion, you're not betting on him being better than Mostert or Wilson as much as you are betting on him being better than Ahmed or Gaskin.
Gaskin might.
So
the sad part is I somehow think Gaskin could still make the roster somehow. That's so annoying. Like people made fun of me because I liked Patrick Laird and he kept sticking around. It's like, you want to talk about a wart? Myles Gaskin won't go away.
I mean, he's a hard worker.
He's a hard worker.
I mean,
he's meh. He's the definition of meh.
But we're at pick 13. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being absolutely freaking hilarious, what would you rate? How hilarious would you rate it if Green Bay dumps Aaron Rodgers after never drafting a receiver high for him, and they go receiver at 13?
Yeah,
and they could get the top guy on the board.
Yep.
So
Aaron Rodgers.
I think it's really possible.
Aaron Rodgers is going to go back into the darkness.
I mean, I'm sure he's very happy with the receivers he's got right now with New York.
What I'm intrigued about is pick 15, man. Like, what are the Jets gonna do? It's setting up the way I think it's gonna set up. Which is they're gonna have to reach to try to fill a need with that pick. We shall see. Because the smart thing I think would be to take BPA right there. And
who do you have as the best receiver on the board?
I got the Ohio State kid, but I really do like Zay Flowers a lot. And it really depends on what you need. I would not take this guy number 1, but Jalen Hyatt of Tennessee. If you have a number 1, he could be a perfect number 2 that can unlock a bunch of things for your defense. But I like the Ohio State kid is the best. I have a problem pronouncing his name.
Smith Njiba, is it not?
Yeah, Njiba. Yeah, Njiba. Njiba is his. Yeah.
You always have to
So-
learn it. Like, how many times do we have to get Noah Igbenogany correct?
The hillbilly from North Carolina can say Njiba. That's funny.
Yeah, Jordan Addison, I think is going to be a nice player, but yeah, I'm a little suspicious of him. I'm not of Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, I think, is going to be a good pro for a very long time.
He better not go in the next couple picks then.
You know what would be even funnier than picking a receiver? Green Bay goes Will Levis. Like, we already got Jordan Love, the protege.
Uh,
No, you know what really would be funny? At 15, the Jets take Will Levis.
That would not be a bad idea, though.
No,
It
for
would
them
not.
it wouldn't be, but it would be hysterical. And Aaron Rodgers, with
Because
the whole Aaron Rodgers thing.
Well, Aaron Rodgers knows he's not at the Jets for more than a couple of years at best. So I think he would be fine with that. I think it was a slap in the face in Green Bay because he was still the guy. That was 3-4 years ago.
I mean, they did the same thing with Brett Favre, though. He was still the guy back then too, and they picked Aaron Rodgers. So it's absolutely in their character.
And
for the Green Bay Packers.
Who was the
guy
guy
never mind. The Jets just traded.
Who was the
Oh no, wait, no, that's for 4. Okay. Oh my God, that scared me. I was like, did they just
who
trade
was
with the Jets?
who was the was it Brian Brom? That was the pick in 2008.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it like, this guy's going to replace, Brett Favre because we don't know anything about Rodgers and he's not played much. I will say that was the first year I ever played fantasy football. I had the number 2 pick in the draft. I drafted Tom Brady. Week 1, Bernard Pollard. There goes Tom Brady. I needed to pick up a quarterback. I had 2 options on the board. Vince Young or Aaron Rodgers, and I chose Aaron Rodgers, and it worked out well for me that season.
And Green Bay selects
Lucas Finesse, a nice edge player.
So still picking defensive players for Green Bay. So nothing has changed.
That, dear Lord, just get him a Hall of Fame jacket right now. Look at that shirt. I would wear that to work tomorrow if I had it.
It's making my eyes itch.
They compare him to Rashawn Gary.
Wasn't he a Packer or is he still a Packer?
He's still a Packer.
Go figure. So they drafted.
Did he get hurt last season?
Rashawn Gary? Yeah, I think so. So they drafted his clone. Very interesting. So here's New England, and they're on the clock.
They're going.
They haven't picked yet.
I hope they don't pick Njiba.
I'm telling you, man, I'm smelling it. Will Levis.
The Patriots and Bill Belichick do not have a great history of drafting receivers. But man,
They are going to do. I'm telling you, they're going Will Levis. They're done with Mac Jones. They don't have a replacement. They want.
Well,
Will Levis.
Antoine Staley, who I explicitly trust, says that they're going to pass.
No, I know. Ernesto said the same thing earlier. That Antoine said they're not going to take him, but I don't know. I just something.
I'm going to go ahead and put a plug in for a guy. If Wes Welker goes on to bigger and better things in the NFL.
Wait, ESPN receives draft analyst Todd McShay. Was McShay with NFL Network?
No, ESPN.
Okay, that's a joke then. Oh my God, don't mess with me like that.
So if Wes Welker goes on to bigger and better things, then Mike McDaniel better
Trade alert!
Immediately.
Steelers.
They traded the
made
picks.
a trade with
the Patriots.
Okay, so I guess they didn't want Will Levis. All right.
So yeah, if Wes Welker moves on, they better call Brian Hartline, bring him back.
I would in a heartbeat.
Dude, he's the best. He's the best wide receiver coach in football, at least in college football. Like if you go to Ohio State and you get to play a lot, you're going to be a good receiver because he just coaches them up so well. And if you watch the way he played, he had to play like a very, very smart, technical receiver because he didn't have the athleticism as other guys. I remember it was the game he set the team record against Arizona. He put a double move on a guy. I swear it looked like the screen glitched, like froze for a minute, and then he did something. It was like the most amazing double move. I sat there and rewatched it like 20 times.
Well, I would absolutely pick him up. So Pittsburgh moves up.
Who for is the question, because it's not a quarterback. Kenny Pickett's already there. Do you think they want to continue the legacy of the Porter family?
Probably.
It makes a little sense, yeah. But I think Christian Gonzalez would be a better fit for now.
And presumably he is the better player between the two. But it's weird though that they would take the opportunity to move up, and they don't already know who they want. Like, they're still on the clock. Okay, there it goes. They're showing Broderick Jones right now, a Georgia offensive tackle. Steelers in need of offensive line help.
Yeah. And they jumped the Jets to get a tackle.
Gus 1388 says it has to be Jones. So,
Well, Steelers need help pretty much everywhere, man.
So the Pats got a 4th rounder out of it.
To move how many spots?
3.
That's good work.
They can still get a good receiver if that's what they want at that spot.
Well, I mean, hey, a receiver hasn't gone off the board yet.
This was a weak class for receivers, but
it's a weak class for a lot of stuff.
Unless Miami really wants a receiver, they really need them to start going so that players we want will fall.
It's a good thing that the 2nd and 3rd rounds go so much faster, because we've been going for almost 2 hours now. We're not even halfway done.
I don't know. It felt like it's gone pretty quick this year to me.
In comparison to what? Last year?
Yeah, last year was very slow, seemed like.
But isn't that partly because we were waiting for the Dolphins to pick? And now we don't have any anticipation because we don't expect anything.
No, they didn't have a pick last year either.
Oh, that's right. They didn't. They traded them all. So the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yep, Broderick Jones. Alfredo just dropped out. Okay.
Yep.
So Broderick Jones, an offensive tackle. So I guess that so that takes care of the offensive tackle need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next up comes the Jets. I mean, the Jets just got Aaron Rodgers. They already have all the wide receivers in the world. So I guess they need a tackle too.
So they need a tackle, and there's 4 offensive linemen gone off the board so far. Right?
And all of them the tackles, and then technically one guy is going to be a guard.
Harris Johnson, Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, and Skoronski. So the next guy left, if they want tackle, probably going to be that's DeJuan Jones.
So another Jones. I mean, there's also Matthew Bergeron. Not that I think he's all that great, but
I don't know that he would have a 1st round grade, but
neither does DeJuan Jones, I would imagine.
It depends. Like, I'm looking at the Draft Network board, and DeJuan Jones is rated 21. And who was the guy you mentioned?
Matthew Bergeron.
Bergeron is 66.
Yeah, he's almost always there for the Dolphins to select if they really want it with their selections.
I like him. I think he could play guard or tackle. Either one, it doesn't matter. He's going to start. We've had 1 defensive tackle off the board, 1 corner off the board, no receivers, a couple of edge players. So let's see, 2 running backs.
That was the craziest thing. Seeing Jahmyr, I know that people really liked Jahmyr Gibbs, but I was stunned that they decided to pick him that early on.
Yeah, I mean, for Miami to move from 51 to that spot, assuming they could have predicted that,
That would have taken the whole draft class next year.
yeah, well, that's not worth it. Unless you could somehow talk the um, talk the hang on a minute, my
Having some technical difficulties there.
no the puppy decided to come down and
I mean, bring the puppy on, man. Everybody likes animals. I think somebody had a bird on the show once. Or was it a cat? I don't remember.
My computer was trying to do something. Want me to
Unseemly.
update something, so I don't know. All right, so the Jets are on the clock. I really hope they
How
don't.
desperate are
Warren
they,
Jones
for real?
for a tackle? I don't know that they're. I wouldn't know how desperate they are. I mean, they still got Mekhi Becton. He's coming back from an injury. I don't remember who they've got.
That was weird.
Oh, you just said, did your computer just blue screen on you?
Yeah, it was weird. It was a StreamYard thing though, because I just got kicked right to Twitter, and I was like, I don't want to be here.
That's why I have my own Discord server. $3 a month. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Dude, you should join. It's
This
easy.
is going to be
to interact there.
Yeah, it's well worth the money. Not because it's my Discord server, but it's well worth the money. It's a growing community. We have almost 2,000 people in there,
and they're moderated, so ridiculousness does not get to stick around.
No.
Would the Jets take an edge rusher here?
You know what? That's a distinct possibility. The most underreported thing ever was that they took Jermaine Johnson in the first round last year, and he's an unmitigated bust so far.
Did he get hurt or miss time due to injury?
He missed a little time with injury, then he came back, and then he got benched.
So Nolan Smith out of Georgia?
I could see, Miles Murphy's still on the board. They're not going corner.
What do the Jets have at tight end?
That guy they signed from Cincinnati a couple years ago.
What, Hayden Hurst? No, that's that's the Ravens.
Starts with an O or something like that. I can't think of his name.
All right, I'm gonna look up the Jets roster. This guy's where's Antoine? He knows all this stuff. Tight ends for the New York Jets as of right now: Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, CJ Uzoma, and Kenny Yeboy.
I think Jeremy Ruckert could become something. I was very disappointed in that pick last year.
Yeah, Andrew Good. Tyler Conklin. Yeah, it's Tyler Conklin that's over there.
Yeah.
Is there any relation to Jack Conklin there?
The Jets. Who's that? Didn't they sign an edge rusher from the 49ers, and then he tore his Achilles or hurt his knee or something
an edge rusher for the Jets?
Yeah, it was either from the 49ers or from I can't remember where, but
DeForest Buckner?
No,
that's not him. I'm trying to look up your guy here. I don't know. I don't see him on here. Quincy Williams. Okay, wait. Here's the unrestricted free agents. No. I don't see anybody on here.
I'll.
The Jets are taking their sweet time here. I don't think they know what they want to do.
They've got. Let's see. Carl Lawson. That was him.
Oh, Carl Lawson. Okay. I guess they're finally patting themselves on the back. There's only a minute left on the clock. Hey, y'all, we got to actually put in the draft pick.
I wonder if they're fielding calls.
I mean, if they're congratulating each other, they must have come to a decision on something.
They're
Okay, there it is. Are you all watching NFL Network?
Yeah, NFL Network. Screw ESPN. ESPN's terrible. They're just bad.
Because I'm hearing like the same feed. Like I just saw the guy screaming at the top of his lungs with the
Because there's an NFL feed.
So it only flip flops to ESPN analysts when it's time to talk about.
Yeah, the way it works is that there's there's a truck that controls a lot of the images and the sound, and that belongs to the NFL. The ESPN then borrows it, and then ESPN the producer switches to those shots, which gives you the desk and then the individual shots of each of the guys.
Gotcha.
So it's a technical thing.
Gus says the Jets have traded Rodgers back to the Packers.
The NFL owns the images, so they produce most of the images that you see.
Okay. So apparently the Jets have traded Aaron Rodgers back to the Packers. They're like, nope, we changed our minds. He said something weird about FaceTime. We don't want him anymore.
I'm intrigued by this pick.
Did you see the contract reworking that they did for Aaron Rodgers?
No, I did not.
So they redid his deal in such a way that this season the cap hit's marginally okay. Next season the cap hit is $104 million.
What?
I think Antoine Staley tweeted that the way they did it, which of course means they're going to immediately restructure or extend or do something because you're not having a $103 million cap hit, but it's something ridiculous like that.
Nah, that can't be right.
So
$104 million worth of cap?
Yeah, something like that.
That's the whole salary
cap. Now, am I wrong in thinking that if he were to retire, they're not on the hook for that?
I mean, hell, they better not be, unless they want to do like a Bobby Manila thing.
Depends on what's guaranteed. If it's guaranteed, they owe it.
But would it count against the cap if it's guaranteed?
Yes. The only thing is that you could move it on. You could move it on over a few years. You could prorate it.
So they could do some those void ghost years like they did for Eric Fisher.
Yes.
I mean,
what will happen here?
The Jets must be selling out for this year if that's what they're doing. Like, you really think you were just an Aaron Rodgers away from being a Super Bowl?
I don't know that roster is, but
man, my under 16.5 offensive players taken might be a sweat for Welch. Oh yeah, by the way, I didn't even mention it this whole show, but this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. They'll match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up. So they'll give you $100. Basically, all you have to do is just use our promo code and deposit first. Okay, so what exactly is going to happen here? The New York Jets select. Will McDonald, a linebacker. So is he a pass rusher kind of guy?
Yeah, edge rusher.
Well, Welch is not particularly impressed. So what's the story on this guy?
Okay,
I'm not too big on him.
Out of Iowa State. I guess Chad would probably know something more about him.
So this is the tweet. Antoine retweeted this from Dan Graziano. It said, it appears the Packers converted Aaron Rodgers' $58.3 million 2023 option bonus into 2024 salary, which means he's scheduled to make $1.165 million this year and $1.755 million next year. So he'd only count $1.165 million against the Jets cap this year, and obviously they'll restructure next year. So yeah, they converted that to whatever so that he would have a low cap hit this year and a ridiculous amount next year.
This is the thing about the whole quarterback situation that is just so frustrating. Like, I get it, you have to pay your guys, but like, you basically make it like once you realize you have a guy, you're never allowed to be in that window anymore unless they're so good that they're the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, you have to have a guy who can overcome the fact that the rest of his roster is going to be mid because you can't afford anybody.
Okay, so they've got this. They just drafted this guy, and they're showing him jumping over cars and dunking basketballs. That doesn't seem to be a good sign.
It's like, where's the film?
I'll show the tape.
Where are the
Man.
highlights? It's like, those are the highlights.
I'm gonna go. I'll go ahead and say the draft pick that I would love to see the Dolphins get if he's there is Jack Campbell, and if the Bills take him here in a little bit, I'm going to be very, very mad.
Well, that's going to be the Tremaine Edmonds replacement, right?
Probably.
Okay, wait a minute. Real quick question. Who was the Commanders quarterback?
Sam Howell.
Okay, this is Will Levis. Gotta be.
And I think they also picked up Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, did they pick up Brissett?
I believe they did.
Jacoby Brissett is with the Commanders.
The fact that I'm just rattling off this stuff's amazing because I don't even remember what I did like early this morning, let alone.
Duke, you just know stuff. You don't like you talk yourself down. Oh, I don't watch film anymore. You know stuff. There's a reason I respect you, bro.
I wish I had the time to watch film. I remember very vividly in 2013 watching all kinds of film with guys and studying the draft prospects, and the guy that I wanted, like everybody, a lot of people wanted, like, well, let's not draft DeAndre Hopkins. Let's get Sammy Watkins next year. It's like, look, DeAndre Hopkins is a beast, and I was right on that one. I was wrong on the Notre Dame tight end that Cincinnati got, but he ended up getting hurt. Eifert.
Tyler Eifert, I remember him.
And then the guy that I wanted was Desmond Trufant.
I remember you going off on Trufant all the time.
I was always a big fan. I was always a big fan of his.
I watched him at the Senior Bowl, and one-on-one drills, the receivers are always going to win. It's built for them to win. And he locked up everybody. And then he goes to the combine, and he has like the goofiest looking back pedal. People are like, I remember Omar was saying, I wouldn't draft him with that back pedal, and he needs to work on that. I'm like, dude, he was locking up everybody at the Senior Bowl in one-on-ones. So, yeah, and
sometimes you just look a little odd. That's all.
And then Lane Johnson should have been the pick, wasn't.
I mean, I was high on Deion Jordan. I was. I really thought that Deion Jordan could be something special, and he kind of just ruined it for himself. So it's starting to look more and more like the Miami Dolphins are not going to do anything funky. But, I mean,
at this point, who would they trade up for?
I can't think of a name, honestly. I mean, how badly do they want a tight end? Because, quite frankly,
there's none off the board.
There hasn't been a tight end taken off the board. Oh, are we watching the Manning brothers try to do push-ups? Okay, I guess that's funny. Because there's commercials going on right now. I think it's the Manning camp.
I don't think Washington would take Levis, but they could. Well, I see if he doesn't go to New England, which apparently doesn't seem likely, Detroit and Tampa Bay and even Seattle are good choices.
Nah, Seattle just invested in Geno. They're not looking to pick up somebody new now.
But it depends how much guaranteed money was on that deal and how they could get out of it. But I mean, that's a possible option. Minnesota is an option.
I think Washington goes Levis at this point.
Dallas is a sneaky option.
With Dak there? Nah.
I mean, there's a lot of people aren't high on him.
But the Cowboys are.
And then nobody after that's taking a quarterback, so it would be round 2. So he's got Detroit, Tampa Bay, Minnesota as viable options, Seattle, and maybe Dallas as sneaky options.
Well, we're going to find out now. Here we go.
That's assuming he doesn't go here, of course.
I think he goes up. Emmanuel Forbes, a corner.
I kind of nailed that one. I did a mock draft, and I was being asked, Emmanuel Forbes this early, and sure enough, that's exactly where I mocked him. So I kind of nailed this pick at 16. I like the player. I really, really love the player as far as, what you want. If you want a playmaker on the ball, a guy with really good ball skills, especially in zone, like if he's facing the quarterback, he's a problem. So, yeah, I really like this player. Really, really like this player. Like, he's maybe my 4th or 5th cornerback. Like, I like Joey Porter Jr. hasn't been taken yet. I like him better. Deontay Banks hasn't been taken yet. I like him better.
Christian Gonzalez hasn't been taken yet.
Christian Gonzalez hasn't been taken yet. I like him better. DJ Turner from Michigan, I think is going to go late in the first round, and I like him better, but this guy is solid. It's a great class at cornerback. If this were a year that we needed a cornerback, and to be fair, we were in a Jalen Ramsey trade away from needing one, right?
Yeah.
We were going to have so many options to take one.
Well,
It was going to be the perfect draft to take a cornerback.
New England didn't even blink, so they know what they wanted.
They could use one too, couldn't they?
Something about this just tells me they still want a quarterback. Like the idea that Mac Jones is on a beat, like Hussam basically said in our Dolphins chat that the idea that Mac might not be sticking around much longer. I mean,
still no receivers off the board.
Still no receivers. I just feel like though that the receiver position is like it's so full up at this point. Zay Flowers is still there. That's the guy that a lot of people are really high on.
I've seen him mocked to the Patriots, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him here.
Well, let's find out. The Christian Gonzalez. Okay. There it is, the corner. So Bill Belichick is not liking the idea of facing off against Tyreek Hill and them.
Well, did he resign Jack? One of those Joneses that he had, I can't remember.
Like all 4 of them.
There was Jonathan, Jack, Jim, and somebody else. I don't know.
Jonathan, Jack, and Jim.
I just made that last one up. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is one. So still, I guess, man. I mean, this is exactly what we were doing a few years ago, right? We were just wondering, why is this quarterback just tumbling down? Like, are people really that low on Will Levis? I'm really shocked at this point.
Well, it's about need as well. I mean, a lot of these teams.
Like, you cannot tell me the Commanders did not need a quarterback. You can't.
I mean, they said they wanted to give Sam Howell his
gross. They are wrong. They are wrong. Like the 49ers got lucky with Brock Purdy. That's not something you expect to happen. Is that the puppy in the background, Duke?
Yeah, she's playing with a bottle. I had a bottle here. It was empty, and she decided to play with it.
Pets.
A 1-year-old Cocker Spaniel. She's a mess.
I got to say, this is really good maneuvering by the Patriots. If we're going to start critiquing what everybody's doing in our division, since we don't have a pick today, I hate what the Jets did. I don't like that player. I don't like Will McDonald that much. He's a speed rusher, and they already have Carl Lawson. It's kind of redundant. And he's a guy that starts and stops a ton. Those guys, man, they'll look great in practice and then get beat up on a Sunday. But the Patriots moving down, adding some ammunition, adding an asset that they could use to maybe move up earlier in the middle rounds where this draft gets really, really meaty, and they still get Christian Gonzalez. Yeah, this is good work. This is really good work by the Patriots. I like what they've done.
I mean, it's not like they moved drastically down. It's only 3 spots, and getting that little extra one is a little bonus.
Yeah, they get that 4th round pick, and they get the guy that they could have gotten over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they get paid a 4th round pick to be patient. So the Patriots did a very, very nice job here. I don't like what the Jets have done. And by the way, the Jets have convinced themselves that DJ Reed is like this great cornerback. No, DJ Reed had a nice season. Can you imagine they would have taken Christian Gonzalez to pair him with Ahmad Sauce Gardner? But they didn't.
I mean,
good for us.
I mean, I don't know at this point. Who's the most likely to? I mean, I know the Buccaneers have just lost Tom Brady, so I guess maybe they would want Will Levis.
Yeah,
they have. They have what? Kyle Trask. That's the only quarterback.
Yeah,
they got Baker Mayfield, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Baker. I mean,
yeah, they got Baker on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, so.
And I'm still not convinced that Baker's anything even remotely decent. Like I don't like the guy. I've never liked the guy. I get that he had a few good seasons in Cleveland, but to this day, from the day one to now, I don't like Baker Mayfield.
If he had stayed on the market long enough, or had been willing to take what Miami was willing to pay, I would have loved for him to have been the backup.
I don't want Baker Mayfield anywhere near my football team. I just don't. I really don't. I was willing to give Josh Rosen a chance because he figured he seemed to have been humbled a little bit by his whole situation. But
not me. As soon as they made the trade, I was like, "Oh, this is stupid." They just threw away a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, I didn't I didn't like Josh Rosen coming out, and I didn't like Baker Mayfield coming out. And every time I see
Josh Rosen, I love Josh Rosen as a junior. He had a monster year. Something happened to him as a senior, and all of his warts started showing up.
Yeah, he probably got high on himself.
He's a guy that actually got worse in college. Like there was a time in college where you looked at him and you said, "Man, Josh Rosen is something special. Like this is going to be something good down the road." And he just got progressively worse. Well, usually it's the opposite. Usually college quarterbacks always peak right into the draft. That's why a lot of guys leave as juniors. They had the monster year as a junior, and they say that's it. I'm gone. That's what Tua did. That's what I believe Bryce Young is doing that right now, and that's what Mac Jones did, right?
Well, Mac, I mean, in Mac's case, even Ron, even though he technically said he liked Mac coming out of college, but he was willing to say no, he's not nearly as good as Tua is. So it just makes it even more laughable than ever that Mac Jones was ever voted to the top 100. Even the NFL players don't know what they're talking about.
So since this is a question I've thought of, where would I know there was a big deal talking about players going back, but Justin Herbert went back as a senior instead of coming out in the 2019 draft.
And that was a mistake.
Where does he fall in the 2019 draft?
Who does?
He's number 1 overall.
Number 1 overall. Okay.
Yeah.
Rosen?
Herbert.
Herbert.
Oh, Herbert.
Did I say Rosen? I'm sorry. I meant Herbert.
No, I didn't know who you were referring to.
Yeah, because Herbert was a guy that, as a junior, everybody was eyeballing and saying, "No, this is the number 1 pick. Like he should come out. He'll be the number 1 pick." And we still project him as the number 1 pick. And then the following year, Tua had the big year, and Burrow had the greatest season by a college quarterback in the history of the sport. And then that moved Herbert down a little bit.
So best available, at least on Mel Kiper's board: Will Levis, Nolan Smith, Zay Flowers, Njigba, and Dalton Kincaid.
Yep.
Still no tight ends. Still no tight ends as of right now. So I guess the most likely candidate to pick a tight end would probably be Cincinnati, I suppose. Is that the missing piece on their offense? I would have figured they would want to.
I think Cincinnati would take Michael Mayer. I think that's who they would want. They're at 27, right?
28. Well,
28.
27.
Okay.
Yeah, 27.
27? Okay.
28.
Yeah, like
Sorry.
Michael
I'm looking
Mayer,
at
I
the
think,
board
is the
here.
perfect fit.
All right, Lions pick is in. Is this a quarterback? Tell Jared Goff to go kick rocks. All right, so we've been going for about 2 hours, 5 minutes. We're going to see what the Lions pick is, and then we're just going to go ahead and give what we think will happen at pick 51, and we'll see if we come back tomorrow. Depends on who we can scrounge up as far as a panel goes. But let's just see what the Lions are going to do first. If we ever get off of watching
This is kind of an important pick here. I think Brian Branch makes perfect sense for the Lions right now. Or you know what? Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith to play opposite of Aiden Hutchinson would be a great call.
The Lions' defense was not all that special, so they could use it. Jack Campbell to the Lions.
This is a reach. It's a good player, but it's an incredible reach. And they already got Alex Anzalone, who's a really nice player. Jack Campbell has to play in that scrape role. I'm not sure I like this pick. Like, what are you going to do with Alex Anzalone? Alex Anzalone is a really nice player.
Send him to Miami.
Yeah, send Alex Anzalone down here. Like, we'll take him. Although I think they paid him, right? If you can look that up, I think I'm interested in that. What did they do with Alex Anzalone? I think they gave him a new contract.
They re-signed him, yeah.
But was it big money or what was it?
Hang on, let me pull it up. Alex Anzalone's contract, currently speaking, is a 3-year, $18 million contract.
So they got him cheap. So it makes sense. So what are they going to do? Like, so they're going to trust Jack Campbell to play, as a scrape and not a fill, I guess.
What does Jack Campbell do exactly? Like, he's just a bruiser?
No, he's he can play outside the tackles, but he's a two gap reader as a linebacker, very similar to David Long. He's a good blitzer in between the tackles. That's a fact. He's good in pass coverage. The only thing is that the allure of Jack Campbell was to have him do a lot, right? And play him as your Mike. And now they're essentially saying, no, we're not going to play him as our Mike. We're going to play him as our scrape. Because what are you going to do with Alex Anzalone? Alex Anzalone can't play outside. He has to play the Mike. So they took a good player, and they're going to play him in a position where they're not going to take full advantage of all his skill and all his talent.
But does this shake things up now? Because now a lot of other teams are probably thinking, whoa, what's this all about? Because the Lions have done that twice now. Because Jahmyr Gibbs went, 12?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And now the Lions.
Well, DeAndre Swift, you have to trade. Like, that's just, like, there's no use. There's no use for DeAndre Swift. Alex Anzalone, you can still play Alex Anzalone as your Mike and then play Jack Campbell as your scrape.
Well, I'm not referring to the Lions per se. I'm talking about the rest of the draft, because now that Jack Campbell and Jahmyr Gibbs have both been taking way higher than they were supposed to, some really good players are falling way further than anybody was expecting them to.
Yeah, especially these corners. Like, what are people thinking? Like, Joey Porter's still on the board. Like, come on, people.
Both of those Lions picks were
drastic reaches.
Were guys that I hoped would have fallen to 51. I didn't expect them to.
Both are great players, by the way.
Yeah, but not this high.
Yeah.
So,
and the Bucs didn't even blink. So this might be the quarterback. But in any case, I said we would go ahead and shut this down. Let's go ahead and get in what we would want the Dolphins to pick at 51. Alf, I know you. Do you stand by your Keanu Benton choice, or do you have someone else?
Well, no, that's not what I want. That's what I think they'll do. That's my prediction is Keanu Benton. What I want is what I've been pounding the table for, man. Be bold. Man, I love Jonathan Mingo.
Oh, yeah, Jonathan Mingo.
I would love to see what they would do with those 3 wide receivers and 11 personnel. You got to remember that 11 personnel was their best personnel grouping from last season, and that was with Trent Sherfield as the third guy. Imagine putting somebody like Jonathan Mingo as the third guy. So be bold. This is a great pick, by the way. This is a great player, Kalijah Kancey for Tampa Bay. They're going to play Kalijah Kancey next to Vita Vea. That is a great combination. I love this. And he's one of my favorite players in this draft.
He's getting an Aaron Donald comparison. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's what that's the look,
Okay, well.
And when you watch him play, you kind of see it, man.
So basically, don't blink if you're a quarterback because you're going to go hit the ground. All right. So Alf wants Jonathan Mingo. Duke?
Okay, so the guy that I've wanted for a while that I think would fit, I'm going to go with the same direction that Alf went. I'm going to say Marvin Mims. I like the idea of just having 11 personnel and have a lot of speed. He has a vertical component that you can use and let the 2 stars kind of run underneath as well as vertical. I don't think that's where the Dolphins will go. I'm going to give 2 predictions that I think could happen. It's either going to be Matthew Bergeron or Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's who I think they would pick. But yeah, I would take the receiver and just spread the field on everybody.
Randy Chambers says, can we draft Jimmy Butler? I mean, he'd be a better player than a lot of these other guys, huh? All right. I've been very consistent with my wish list. I think Sam Laporta would be a perfect fit. Now, who do I want? I guess Darnell Washington, but I'm still not 100% convinced that he'll be there. So I guess I would just go ahead and go with the flow of everybody else. I want Darnell Washington. I think he has the potential to become an elite tight end, an elite tight end. He's got an incredible size. He can block. He's got incredible ability to potentially be a receiver. So I feel like he could be the whole package in a year or two. So I feel like he would make Durham Smythe and Eric Saubert absolutely obsolete pretty quick. So he just needs some good coaching, which the Dolphins do have. So that's going to be it for now. Seattle's still on the board. We're up to pick number 20. Only about 12 more before we're at the end of the round. I don't think the Dolphins are going to do anything wild. Who knows? We'll see. Second round tomorrow. We'll see what we can do about getting a stream up. Thank you all so much for listening. Duke, thank you for coming in on such short notice. I really appreciate the time. It was great to have you on again. We'll try to get you on a little more often if you're willing. Alf, as always there. And just before we go, just to make sure that I do my due diligence here, if you're looking for somebody to help your wheels get all fixed up, you can go to You Brake Wheel Fix. They're the complete automotive wheel solution. You can get your wheels fixed up. If you have bends, cracks, or curb rash, you can do some powder coating for refinishing, machining, polishing, or if you're needing to get your wheels a good Dolphins paint job, they can help you out with that too. Call Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com, or you can shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. That's You Brake Wheel Fix. Make sure you go check them out today. So I talked about Prize Picks. They're still awesome. Use that promo code 5. You got the hat right there, Alf. They'll give you $100 if you use our code and submit and deposit $100. So you don't even have to touch your money for a good long time. You can just use theirs if you know what you're doing. So if you're
it's like it's a free $100. Just take it. It's a one-time rollover. Mm-hmm. I know every time that people hear, oh, okay, it's a free $100. Yeah, right. Okay, sure. Perfect.
No, it's real.
No, it's really free. It's a one-time rollover. You deposit $100, you bet it, it shows back up into your bank account right away. So it's like a free $100. Take it. Yep. FIVE 5.
Yep. All righty. We will hopefully see you all tomorrow. So until then, have a great night.